Whenever you're ready, you can. Hi, everybody. My name is Nyemade Boiwu, and I am NAMI Delaware's Diversity and Equity Fellow. Welcome to another month and another session of Sharing Hope Community Conversations. I'm so excited because, each month we try to bring you a different topic and different source of conversation that especially affects our community. And tonight we're actually bringing you a special presentation from one of our NAMI Delaware programs, our presentations called In Our Own Voice. And with me today, I have Ms. Ramona Phillips. I'm going to let her introduce herself and we'll get things going.
Hello, Nyemade. Thank you so much for introducing me. I would like to welcome everyone that's here tonight. So I'm going to go right on with the introduction. Is that okay? So,
Yep.
as you know, my name is Ramona Phillips. I am the eldest sister. My mother had 8 children. I am a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 7. I am an Amazon best-selling author with 17 other amazing co-authors. I love comedy. I love good movies. I have a radio program. I like music and I love to dance. I enjoy traveling and spending time with family and friends as well. I like meeting new people and participating in my community. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. We provide advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so that all people affected by mental illness can build better lives. NAMI Delaware has many resources such as educational programs for law enforcement, youth, educators, corporate, community, and faith-based communities. We also offer support groups such as family and friends. Discover, we have NAMI Basics for parents and youth. We also offer mental health first aid and fact sheets for family and educators. You are welcome to participate in our NAMI walks. We also have a helpline, which is not a crisis line. Housing is available, housing for those who qualify upon availability and resources. You can visit our website at namidelaware.org, okay? So now I'd like to turn it over to my co-presenter to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. As I mentioned before, I'm Nyemade Boiwu, the NAMI Delaware's Diversity and Equity Fellow. If this is your first time watching, hello. If you've watched any of these in the past or have joined us previously, you know that I am someone who lives with depression and anxiety. I talk about it freely just so that other people can know that they're not alone. And I also try to do my best to help be a resource for the community or a liaison between the resources that NAMI offers and what the community needs. Our purpose today is to offer insights that provide support into the roles that matter to us all, to be better siblings, coworkers, neighbors, service providers, parents, spouses, and friends. Mental health conditions in ourselves or in someone we care about can impact those roles. The story that you'll hear today, and we have Ramona sharing her story, will describe how mental health affects people and their relationships with others. We'll share how mental health has impacted our lives, explore warning signs, and describe what kinds of habits and changes support our mental health. We're going to alternate between watching a video and speaking with you directly. The video is divided into 3 segments: what happened, what helps, and what's next. After each segment, we'll pause the video and briefly share our personal stories, or Ramona will share hers, so that you have the time for discussion and questions. We're here for you and want to speak about what you're most interested in hearing. If you have any questions, please let us know. And just for the knowledge of those watching, the NAMI In Our Own Voices presentation is copyrighted, and Ramona and I are sharing some personal information, so please be reminded of that. And that's also why we did get some permission from you, or we did let you know ahead of time that we are recording. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the videos. Okay. All right, so the first one is a YouTube video, and this is going to be the what happened portion. No, yeah, Henry, slow down. Okay.
Are you able to share?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And can you hear the sound?
Want to stop
Can you all
sharing?
hear? Could you hear that?
I can hear the sound.
Were you
I
able to
cannot.
hear that?
No, I can't hear it. So you'll want to stop sharing. And then when you go to share again, hit that little corner button where it says share audio right before you start screening.
All right, so screen share, share sound, the little button at the bottom. Got
Yep,
it.
you got, and then you should be good.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to
All right,
pause.
so I'm
My
gonna
mute
start it again.
Hi, I'm Henry.
Hi, Andrea.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
I'm unable
Alika,
to
how
see
are
you.
you?
I'm good.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
It's a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hey Alex, I'm Doug. Nice to meet you.
Just a little bit about myself. I'm a graphic designer and I work for a nonprofit. I have a little baby boy who's almost a year old.
I have two children and they're not babies. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son.
I actually went to medical school when I was 15 in India and started practicing in the United States. I got married and had the 3 most beautiful children that one can ever imagine having.
I raised my family, and then around age 40, my friends convinced me to go to college. So I did, and became a social worker.
I have a brother and a sister that I'm very close with, and my mother and father are still together. They've been together for 30 plus years, and we're a very close family.
I enjoy the beach and spending time with my 9-month-old puppy, Snoopy, who I love with all my heart.
I consider myself a community activist. I work with people with addiction issues, people that are homeless.
What I really like to do is draw comic books. I've been doing it since I was in like middle school. My diagnosis is schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type.
Borderline personality disorder.
PTSD.
Bipolar disorder.
My diagnosis is major depressive disorder. I think I tell my story so I don't forget where I've been.
I want to be able to dispel those myths that's out there about mental health conditions.
Yeah. I'm an actual person and I have a voice and I have a story to share. I started having symptoms of depression and who am I existential questions since I was 15. And I used to say to myself, I'm having my midlife crisis at 15 years old.
I was suffering from this unbeknownst to me for most of my life.
I was in my early 30s. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. My husband left for work, and I closed my bedroom door, and my sons were on the other side of that door, and I was done.
With depression, I would not go to work. I would call out of work for days on end.
I didn't eat. I slept all the time.
There was about a 3-year period in my life where everything I did and said was sort of a product of the world of delusions that I was living in.
For quite some time, I didn't even recognize my symptoms because hypomania can look organized to me. So I can get a lot done in a very little bit of time. And it didn't become a problem until they noticed that I wasn't sleeping for like days on end.
I hallucinated every single day. I had hallucinations with all 5 senses. And then the anxiety sort of builds and builds and builds until it becomes kind of like a paranoia where, you know, everything is sort of out to get you.
I couldn't express any normal emotions. I couldn't cry. I couldn't do so many things that people did, and it would bother me.
My way of dealing with it primarily was with drugs. And I know now that that's suicide on the installment plan.
I started using alcohol more. I started self-harming more. My friends, when I was a junior, saw the scars and it was horrible. They judged me. They said that I was doing it for attention and they didn't want to hang out with me.
I started self-medicating for a while, and not drugs or alcohol, but with gambling.
After I lost my job, I became homeless. I committed minor crimes to feed my drug habit, lived on the streets, and finally, eventually was arrested and sent to state prison.
As a result of my illness, it led to some criminal activities. I've served 5.5 years' time in prison. And when that happened is when all these things got unraveled.
Some people said bipolar disorder, some people said ADHD, some people said PTSD, and none of them seemed to make sense for me.
It was a diagnosis that evolved over time, several different hospitalizations, several different diagnoses until one eventually stuck.
When I was told with the depression, I didn't hear that word. What I heard was crazy. So since I knew I was not crazy, I couldn't accept that diagnosis.
We've all heard jokes about people with mental illness, people with mental health conditions, and the last thing I wanted to be was the punchline to someone's joke.
I was a special education teacher, so there were kids in my class that had ADHD or had bipolar disorder, and just listening to those teachers and how they talked about those kids, it didn't make me want to come out and share what I had just learned about myself.
I felt that I wouldn't be accepted and that all my work would be dismissed as, not credible because I had a mental illness.
For me, it's a cultural thing. So if you're dealing with mental health issues, you go to church. So I remember doing a lot of that.
I'm Hispanic, I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican, and our culture is mental health is taboo. You don't talk about it. So I struggled with really accepting that I had an issue.
I felt no one understood. Not even like my partner now, wife. I didn't think she really understood, even though she had a lot of compassion for me. I just felt very isolated and felt very alone. And there were times that I did contemplate suicide.
Christmas Day, took all of my pills and I was going to overdose, and I'm sitting at the edge of the bed with the pills all right there. It was never about being dead, it was just ending the pain. And these friends that somehow I've been blessed to have developed over the years knew something was wrong, but they found me.
Okay, so that was
Hello. ANANN.
Okay, Robina, I think I'm gonna mute you if that's okay. There we go. So that was the first portion of it. As I mentioned, it's broken down into 3 different parts. So what happened, what helps, and what's next. So that's the what happened portion. So now I'm going to turn over to Ramona for her to share her story of what happened.
Okay, thank you very much. Excuse me. So I too was diagnosed with anxiety and depressive disorder. And I think it really started when I was really, really little, but I just didn't realize what was going on. I was, hit by a car and burned as a baby, and my mother suffered from depression and anger and anxiety, probably anxiety as well, but many times threatening to leave us. I remember my mother threatening to leave us, and that was very terrifying for me because, like I said previously, I'm the eldest daughter, so I have 7 other siblings. 6 of them are younger than me, so I also developed like a worry disorder. Like I would just worry about my mom's safety and worry about my siblings' safety. I wait a minute, was that? So like I said, I just developed a worry disorder. I just remember worrying as a little child, as a teenager. I also saw her on and off in abusive relationships. My mom was very young when she had children. I saw her in those abusive relationships until I was around 15 years old. And that is when I was actually attacked in my home by my mother's ex-boyfriend, who almost took my life. as a way of getting revenge for breaking up with my mother and put me in the hospital for about 3 weeks. And as a teenager, I suffered with shame and low self-esteem, and I struggled with anger, some most likely suppressed anger, I would say, fear, and then I think I had my first I think it was I recognized my first panic attack at around 19 years old. Sometimes just a few years after I had been attacked in my home, but I still was struggling with the fear anyway. I never felt safe. I didn't like opening the windows, or if I was if I was too low on the ground, I could even till this day, and it's been over like 35, 40 years, even till this day, I don't like to sleep with the windows open because this my attacker came through my bedroom window when I was 15. So I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol at a very early age and jumping into unhealthy relationships at a very early age. I would binge eat whenever I did not feel safe, to numb my feelings, to deal with the fear. I would isolate most of the time because I did not trust people, especially men, or I felt misunderstood. I'm married and alcoholic. By the time I got in my late 20s or something like that, who almost took my life as well. He was afraid I would leave him after I started my recovery journey. So he felt very threatened by the fact that I wanted to change at some point. He was later in a work-related accident, which was more trauma for myself and the children, because by that time I had children. And 5 years later, he died as a result of his injuries from the accident. So here I am, all of a sudden, I became a widow. I later remarried, only discovering that my second husband had borderline personality disorder. I had never heard of it, but I just so happened to be led to the bookstore. I felt like I was living with two people. He would forget things. He would say that he didn't do something or didn't promise me something. And it would be the following day after I know for a fact that he did. And I just started, he would just change up and, go out and cheat and do all of these things. And like I said, I found a book. I found a book at the bookstore that said borderline personality disorder. So I noticed that he was very angry and very controlling and manipulative and having affairs. But that book also helped me to kind of navigate myself through the relationships because I became more aware of what was going on. So I knew eventually I was going to come out of the relationship because he was abusive emotionally and physically at times. So this only added to all the trauma I had already experienced over the years. So I got tired of the suffering, and I was I was concerned about my children, and I hated where my life was going at that time. And I knew that I needed change, but did not know no, I needed help, and that is what happened.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Ramona. Like, you've been through so much. It's so amazing. Like, and they always say you can't tell what someone's been through by looking at them, because you would never know any of that by looking at you, especially as beautiful as you are with your bright smile. So I'm sorry that you went through that, but I'm so glad that you're here with us, and also that you are able to find the strength to have that transparency and share your story with all of us. It's
Thank
definitely
you.
appreciated, and I know I'll help others.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So next we're going to go to the next video, which is going to be the what helps.
I did about 18 months at one of the most notorious prisons in California. After I got out, 90 days later, I was right back in prison. I knew that what I had been doing wasn't working anymore, and that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in prison.
I remember when I was in the hospital the last time, and my therapist, she came to me, we were talking, and she said to me, I really need you to commit to life, because if not, we can't work together. What I remember is that I just opened myself to the risk of living.
So I knew I needed to get help, but I didn't know what help looked like at that point. I didn't even know if it was possible.
When I ultimately became aware of the fact that I did have, a mental health condition, I always call it the best day of my life, because it was just infinitely better than what reality I was living in.
I feel more liberated. I don't have any skeletons in my closet. I would have saved myself a lot of headaches if I would have accepted it a lot earlier in my life, but you can't change the past. You just turn the page and just start a new chapter in life.
Once I realized, I had a mental health condition, the very first thought on my mind was, okay, how am I gonna get on top of this?
I didn't recover from pneumonia all by myself. I didn't recover from depression or post-traumatic stress disorder all by myself.
It took many years to find the right therapist, and I think what made them the right therapist is that they really seemed to genuinely care, to listen to what I had to say.
I find it's always really necessary to sort of advocate for myself, within the mental health system, just because I know if I don't do it, nobody's gonna do it. The doctor at first wanted to see me once a month, but I was like, no, we're meeting once a week.
We did it daily in the beginning, then every other day for many, many weeks, and then maybe 3 times a week, then twice a week, once a week, that sort of thing.
Family therapy was a little challenging. My dad didn't really want to go, but in the end, it really brought us all closer together.
My family, they've been a tremendous help, in my recovery. I think the number one thing they did for me that I can't thank them enough for was they never gave up.
I started on medication when I was in 9th grade, and my dad was very against it. My mom is a little more open, and she wanted me to get on medication. She knew that there was something that just chemically wasn't right with me.
I still feel my depression every single day, but the medication I take just gives me the ability to do the things that I need to do.
I think it's important to kind of be in tune and communicate with your doctor with the different side effects.
The most pronounced side effect for me was this overwhelming sleepiness that I would get.
The side effects that really bothered me the most was not being able to think, just confusion.
The only one that I have right now is the weight gain. Here's the compromise. I think I'm still cute. So.
Yes, you are.
I think the one thing that I've learned is that recovery is an ongoing process. You don't just start taking a magic pill and get better, or find the right therapist and get better. You have to work at it every day.
It's important for me to keep up the routines that I do, even when I'm doing really, really well. That just kind of reinforces my path to wellness.
It's very important for me to have things organized, written down in a calendar somewhere, so I know what I'm doing at what time.
I realized how much better I function during the day with a full night's sleep.
My grandkids, my family, my friends, can't get enough of them.
Positive self-talk, that's something I practice often for my recovery. If I ever feel myself getting stressed, anxious about something, I'll say, I got this, I got this. Nothing can take away your peace.
I also do go to the gym, and I do hot yoga. I love hot yoga. I really do. It's very therapeutic.
I didn't even realize I was spiritual before. But what it has done now actually has played a huge part in my recovery process.
Doing things like, regular meditation kept my mind clear enough for me to be able to pay close attention to what was going on.
Mindfulness is all about awareness, being aware of the present moment. And that has helped me in not only accepting, but also leading a meaningful life.
Some of the compromises I've had to make with my recovery is that I've had to cut back on my alcohol use.
I'm not afraid to tell friends when I go out anymore, hey, you're not drinking knobs, I'm on medication.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell them what meds. It's no sweat off my back not to have a drink. It's actually, you save money that way.
Yeah, that's true.
When I was incarcerated, they served bologna sandwiches like almost every single day. And when somebody offers me or suggests that I go someplace that I know will get me in trouble, I usually just say that'll lead to a bologna sandwich. And I haven't had a bologna sandwich in over 10 years.
Yeah.
And trying to never eat another bologna sandwich for the rest of my life.
Those are the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are their stories of what helps. And then I'll turn it back over to Ramona to share hers.
Thank you. I had to unmute myself. So I started my recovery journey actually in Tampa Bay, Florida, in a Tampa Bay, Florida rehabilitation center about 30 years ago. That is when I realized that I had been mentally and emotionally affected by the traumas from my past. I thought I just had bad nerves because my mom used to just say, bad nerves run in the family. So I just thought, well, I just inherited something that everybody else has in my family. They got bad nerves. But anyway, what helps me is self-awareness and being mindful. I allow myself to feel my feelings. I'm not shaming myself, but accepting how I feel. Um, Reminding myself that even though I feel some discomfort, that I'm safe. If I am angry, hungry, lonely, or tired, fearful, insecure, or jealous, whatever the negative emotion is, or whatever makes me feel uncomfortable, I take responsibility for it. I am mindful about what I am saying to myself about me, consciously or subconsciously. Meaning, I listen to my inner voice. I change my thoughts when I need to change my thoughts because sometimes my feelings are lying to me. I might be feeling angry, but maybe no one made me angry. Maybe I was just triggered by something I saw or heard that I didn't like. Me, it could be something on TV. Maybe my feelings are saying I'm not good enough. So I change my thoughts. I take responsibility for my own happiness today. Before I was looking for something or someone to do that, or my ex-husband to do that. Today I use gratitude. I avoid complaining and comparing myself to others. I don't compete with other people. I am not perfect at any of this, but I am aware, which is very important. I repeat affirmations to myself. I read inspirational and self-help books, and I watch videos on YouTube about healthy relationships and just anything that I know that can help me to change my mindset. My faith is very important to me. I listen to music and people that can inspire me. In other words, I am careful to slow myself down and think about my actions. I don't want to react out of emotions, doing or saying something that I later regret. I don't like hurting people and I don't like people hurting me, of course. So I attend support group meetings. I still attend support group meetings, CODA, such as Adult Children of Alcoholics or Codependents Anonymous. Although I started off in Al-Anon because my husband was an alcoholic, and that's for family members and friends of alcoholics. So I'm huge on support groups because support groups made me feel like I can share my experience, strength, and hope, my feelings without being judged and people whispering, moaning, having a panic attack. She has panic attacks and things like that, like my brother used to do. So this group is for people affected by someone else's drinking. That's Al-Anon. The 12 steps has helped me get grounded to grow emotionally and spiritually. And then I read good books on recovery books and books on emotional intelligence and things like that. I attend church and sing in the choir. Or I used to sing in the choir, but COVID has changed some things. I like cognitive behavior therapy, which is my absolute favorite, CBT, which also I use these techniques such as breathing and positive self-talk, which helps me to think clearly and take responsibility for my thoughts and bring my mind back to the present moment. That is huge. Because a lot of times my mind is like all over the place. So I have to constantly, sometimes I even have to tell myself to focus, slow down and focus. So proper rest is also important to avoid anxiety. I exercise and tweak my diet daily, reminding myself to eat veggies and fruits and most days and drink plenty of water. I am a huge water drinker. I take supplements and herbs. I'm huge on that too, because I also know that that can help me to feel better. B vitamins and so on and so forth are good for the nervous system. And so, I'm huge on supplements. My faith in God plays a big part in my life, and that is what helps me. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing. And then we'll show the last part of the video now, which is what's next.
It seems like my journey has been a bit of a roller coaster ride where I've accepted and I've recovered and then I relapsed and I've accepted and recovered and relapsed, and now I find myself in probably the best place I've been in a really long time.
You know, success with a mental health condition can really be just about anything you make of it.
Success started off in baby steps. That's how I've redefined it, because it used to be getting out of bed was a success. Taking my medication 7 days in a row was a success. It started off small.
When I started this process, I didn't have a lot to be proud of. And now, man, there's so much to be proud of. Just living my life in a healthy way, not having my power turned off, paying my rent and paying all my bills on time.
After everything I went through, I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to go ahead and actually finish school.
I own my own home. I have a great job.
My relationships have improved since I've been in recovery, both with my family, with my friends, with my employers, definitely with myself. I don't have that whole shame thing going on anymore.
This past year was like my first consistent year in recovery without any relapses. And so that was something definitely to celebrate, and we celebrated that. So just to see things like that is encouraging to me, and it gives me the fortitude to continue on and say that I know that I can do it.
One hope is that I can continue on this path of wellness and recovery, of being happy within my own skin.
I'd like to just, slowly but surely sort of make my way back to leading, a much more healthy lifestyle.
You can be happy and healthy whether you have a mental health condition or not.
I think success is being able to communicate your truth to another person.
Getting these emotions out with another person who you know has worn your shoes, has walked your path, just gives you that energy, gives you that hope.
And once I started talking about it, I didn't feel as alone anymore, and I felt strength through other people.
One thing that I've learned about mental illness is that it's one of the most common diseases in America. It's more common than heart disease, more common than diabetes, and more common than cancer. But most people don't recognize that. Just having that knowledge and being able to share that with others might be enough to get them involved in their own treatment, their own help.
The only way that we can help people with mental health conditions, mental health issues, is by removing the stigma attached to it.
I know that when I was in high school, I wish I had someone tell me that things get better. So I want to be that light for someone else. I want to help others and give them hope and let them know that it's going to be okay.
I really believe that reminding myself of how far I've come keeps me on this path of recovery. I don't want to go back to the places that I've been to. And by telling my story, I'm pretty certain it's never going to happen again. No more bologna sandwiches for me.
Okay, and that was the what's next. So next we'll have Ramona share hers.
Thank you for introducing me again. What's next? What's next? So what's next for me is keeping my wellness plan a priority. I'm remembering that it is a journey, a lifelong journey. My emotions, my emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being is very important to me. I am learning to be patient, listening to my intuition and my higher power, who I choose to call God, in order to have healthy, safe relationships, and also to make sure I'm having a healthy relationship with myself. My relationship with myself is also very, very important. I plan to gain more education and experience in telling my story. I want to become a professional speaker, unforgettable speaker, and today I am a mental health coach and on YouTube and social media platforms, and I have a radio program every Saturday morning at 7:45 a.m. I plan to volunteer in the communities, helping to break the stigma around mental illness, showing people that our mental health It is important and we can take responsibility for it. And it's important that, in other words, I have a lot of hope. I have accepted the truth about my past and have taken back my power and plan to help others do the same. I believe we all can live happier, healthier lives and make a difference in the lives of others. We have the power of choice. I plan to read more and give myself permission to play. I'm still working on the whole playing thing, but I'm getting a little better with it. I love hanging out with my friends and stuff. I am taking action to become the best version of myself. I will continue to take online and internet radio. I will continue to teach online and internet radio and take classes and things. I will give myself permission to try new things because I still can get scared, especially if I think it's something dangerous, like I want to ski. But I want to try skiing and I want to do some other things, and I'm like, okay, am I going to get around to it? But anyway, I plan to try some new things. I will challenge myself to come more out of my comfort zone, like eventually learn how to swim, because I never learned how to swim because I was a little child and I felt so much trauma had happened and scared to learn how to swim. Although there was swimming lessons at my school and when I was in 6th grade. I want to play tennis, chess. I love to bowl and take scout. I like skating, but I like to take some skating lessons because I'm really rusty. I am really rusty at it. I want to get back to my keyboard lessons. I want to spend more time with my children and grandchildren, family and friends. And I want to travel and get married again, this time with someone that is stable and has the same values and good character that I have. So thanks for letting me share my what's next.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your entire journey. As I said earlier, it's hard and it's not always easy. Usually with these sharing hopes, we have a conversation and, you've shared so much of your journey. I just have a couple follow-up questions. And if anyone else does, they can ask as well. If not, I'll ask my questions and then we'll go off camera if anyone else would like to share. So, you went through, especially when you're telling, what happened, just so much. I really just can't, believe how you're able to overcome all of that. Is there any one thing that you would say helped you move past each major traumatic thing? I feel like most people have one, maybe two traumatic things, not several, and you've had several and you're still keeping it going. So how have you been able to do that?
To be honest, never giving up hope. And my faith in God. I mean, really, because my grandparents helped. When I was a little girl on my dad's side, my grandparents used to take me to church, and I learned more about learn more about believing in a power greater than myself or believing in God at a very early age. So although I felt like sometimes I just wanted to die or I was scared to death, I still always remember just going to pray to God. And at some point I realized I made it over another hill. I made it over another hill. I made it over another hill. And then at some point I just began to realize that I'm still here for a reason.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned that your ex had borderline personality disorder, which I think is one of the hardest. I mean, all mental illnesses are difficult. I find for me though, interactions with people with that are hard because it's very much their personality. And you're like, well, what if it is mental illness and what if it is just you being that person? Was it something that he eventually recognized as well, or is it just you that were able to recognize the symptoms from the book you read?
It was me. It was me. I believe once again that my higher power led me. I prayed and my higher power led me to the bookstore that day, and I ended up getting the help. And I don't know if I actually discussed it with him, or if I did mention it. I don't think he was open to it. He was open to the fact that he was codependent, and he did go away for just a couple of weeks, but he did gain some awareness about it. That's good. But yeah, I had never heard of borderline personality disorder before.
And also when you started to get treatment, especially, sharing hope is specifically, it's for anybody, but especially for the BIPOC community. And we talk a lot in the Black community about faith. And you even just mentioned your faith is what helped you get through, but it's also a hindrance for a lot of people. It's the reason they don't seek help. Did that stop you from getting help or delay you getting help in any way because of your faith?
Well, I'm going to say, well, not really, but I'm going to say my mindset in the early days, when it all was happening or whatever, my faith in God has not always been very strong. I was scared. I was very religious minded. I thought God was mad at me because I mistakes and I started drinking and drinking and stuff at a very early age and being promiscuous and getting marrying the wrong person. So I had to learn that it was okay to develop a personal relationship with my higher power. So that delayed things for a while because of my fears, because of my fear that I was thinking about this God that's going to eventually punish me. You know what I mean? Because girl, you just can't get it right. And I realized today that my higher power is a very loving God that cares about me. And that's one reason why I'm still here today. So I hope I
Absolutely.
answered that question right. That made
Yeah,
sense.
no, you did. And I appreciate, again, your transparency. Someone had to sign off, but they as well said, thank you for sharing. Because you're not alone, and we aren't alone, which is why we do the sharing hopes and while we're doing the in your own voices. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with everybody and for those who attended. We're gonna turn off the recording now. Before we do, just again, you can reach out to us at NAMI or check NAMIDE.org to see the different services we offer, whether it's housing, support groups, we do presentations, general and personalized. Please reach out to us if you need any resources on any help. We have a helpline as well. So we are available. So thank you all for joining. We're going to turn off the recording now. Oh, did you want to say something?
I just want to say one more thing, because I read it in the chat and I don't think I mentioned that. Something else that truly, truly helped me that's related to, I guess, your first question is the fact that I realized that I was not alone. When I finally took that first step and when I ended up in that rehab where I just like, oh my gosh, we're here. But I realized that I was someplace where people can help me. And I opened myself up to the help available to me. So I was really grateful for that. But when I realized I wasn't alone and going to support groups and things like that helped me a lot because I realized I wasn't alone. And for so many years, I felt like I was by myself, suffering by myself.
Yeah, and that's the worst feeling. No, you're definitely not alone. If you're watching this at home, you're not alone. If you're on the chat right now, you're not alone. So definitely please remember that. And then, so Jackie, if you want to shut off the recording.